Welcome to episode 14 of the Plugged In Australia podcast, the show where we break down the latest in electric mobility with an unapologetically, that's a good start, isn't it? Australian focused. I'm your host, Jamie. Today is Thursday, February 12th, 2026. And whether you're charging your Tesla in the suburbs or plugging in a BYD at a regional servo, or just curious about ditching diesel for your next ute, this is the right place for straight talking in-depth EV news. And today we've got a monster episode because there's just so much happening. We'll cover new plug-in hybrid utes hitting the market at some sharp pricing, major upgrades to one of Australia's best-selling EVs, heavy vehicle electrification making real strides in our ports and logistics, some groundbreaking battery tech that could really slash the cost and boost cold weather performance, and some policy realities that we really can't ignore. We're going to tie everything back to our beautiful country of Australia here, because while global innovation is exciting, what matters is how it lands here on our roads, in our climate, and with our unique challenges like our vast distances, our harsh sun, and don't we know it this year, and the electricity grid, it's still really catching up. We try not to sugarcoat things here. Adoption isn't perfect yet, infrastructure gaps exist, and policy does need some work, but we'll celebrate the wins and be honest about the work ahead. Let's dive in. Alright, first up, big news for anyone in the market for a workhorse ute that doesn't guzzle diesel all day. BYD has just leaked, or rather had leaked, through government approvals, pricing and details for the 2026 Shark 6 dynamic cab chassis. This is the tubless version of the Shark 6 plug-in hybrid ute that's already turning heads. So let's start with the basics. The standard BYD Shark 6 premium pickup launched late last year at around 57,900 drive away, positioning it as a serious rival to the Ford Ranger and Toyota Hilux in the dual cab segment. It's a plug-in hybrid, meaning it combines a 1.5 litre turbo engine with electric motors and a decent battery for electric-only driving, plus hybrid efficiency for when the battery is flat. The powertrain is impressive. Total system output of 321 kilowatts, 650 newton meters, which is supercar territory for a ute. The battery is a 29.6 kilowatt hour Blade LFP pack. That's BYD's safe, long-life lithium iron phosphate technology. Real-world electric range is around 100 kilometers in hybrid mode, but pure EV mode is shorter, maybe 40 to 50 kilometers, depending on the load. Towing is rated at 2.5 ton braked, which is competitive, but not class-leading. Now, the dynamic cab chassis variant strips out the tub for tradies who want to fit their own tray, toolboxes, custom bodies, service bodies and things like that. Pricing leaked at $55,900 plus on roads, which is about $2,000 cheaper than the premium's pickup drive-away price. That's good positioning. Similar gaps exist in rivals like $1,900 between the Ranger XLT cab chassis and pickup and $1,500 for the Hilux SR5. But here's where it gets interesting. The dynamic isn't just tubless, it deletes some features to hit that price. So, no rain sensing wipers, no head-up display, no heated or ventilated front seats, no rear privacy glass, and a synthetic leather steering wheel instead of a genuine one, which some people might prefer. In New Zealand, where it's already on sale, it also gets a smaller 12.8-inch touchscreen, normal one is 15.6-inch, and gets a slower DC charging, which is 40 kilowatt as opposed to 55 kilowatt. That probably isn't such a big deal. You're probably not going to be DC charging that ute very often. Also in NZ, they're getting cheaper tyres, a Giddy brand of tyre rather than Continental. And while it wasn't specifically mentioned in the release, we do expect Australia to have these changes as well. The launch is reasonably imminent, coming weeks from mid-February 2026. BYD's former importer boss, David Smitherman, has talked about pricing pressure from headquarters, but they're holding the line to push volume, especially towards financial year end. He confirmed the Shark 6 is profitable at current pricing. Why is this big for Australia, you might think? Utes are our national vehicle. They are over 20% of new sales. Most are diesel, high emission, expensive fuel. The Shark 6 plug-in hybrid offers massive torque off the line, potential fuel savings if you charge regularly at home. If it's a big company, you've got depot charging, and obviously they have lower running costs. For tradies with daily commutes under 50 kilometres, you could do most of your driving on electric, saving you on your fuel bills. But a reality check here, plug-in hybrids aren't zero emission if you never plug them in. Towing heavy or long distances will lean on the petrol engine, I should say. Charging infrastructure at work sites would be pretty much non-existent. Most of the time you're running a generator anyway, which you wouldn't have to with this. And the feature deletions might sting compared to rivals cab chassis that really, most of them don't cut any of those sort of specs. Still, this expands choice. BYD's build quality has improved massively. Blade batteries are ultra safe, they don't have any thermal runaway, and the Shark's DMO platform is purpose built for off-road capability with electric torque vectoring. So if you're a plumber, a farmer, or a builder, this could be the first plug-in hybrid ute that actually fits your needs without compromising too much. We'll see how it stacks up against the Ford Ranger plug-in hybrid. Just on price, it stacks up really well. The XLT is just shy of $79,000 before on roads. The Wildtrak is $87,000 before on roads. I haven't done a real good check between the specs. I would say that it would sit somewhere close to the Wildtrak for its specifications. So you're looking at a $30,000 price difference between the two. So that makes the Shark 6 Dynamic a genuinely competitive option, making plug-in tech accessible in the work vehicle space. Staying with BYD, they are on fire. The Atto 3 has been Australia's top-selling EV behind Tesla for years. Affordable, safe, practical small SUV. Now government approvals confirm the EVO facelift with hugely more powerful rear and all-wheel drive variants coming soon. So just to recap, current Atto 3, front-wheel drive, 150 kilowatts, 310 newton meters, and a choice of either a 50.1 or 60.5 kilowatt hour battery, 80 kilowatt DC charging, which isn't, nothing to write home about, but it gets the job done. The Evo changes everything. Built on updated E-Platform 3.0 with 800 volt architecture, a new 74.8 kilowatt hour LFP blade battery, DC charging up to 220 kilowatts. That is awesome. That's Tesla supercharger speeds. And AC charging stays at 11 kilowatts on 3-phase. Drivetrains, single rear motor, 230 kilowatt, 380 newton meters, 0 to 100 in about 5.5 seconds, or dual motor all-wheel drive, 330 kilowatts, 560 newton meters, 0 to 100 in 3.9 seconds. Hot hatch territory and a half in a family SUV. Range 510 kilometers at WLTP for the rear-wheel drive, 470 kilometers for the all-wheel drive. Some new design tweaks, some new bumpers, 18-inch wheels, rear spoiler, gear selector to column for some more storage, an 8.8-inch driver display, some better materials, and an optional heads-up display and heated rear seats. The rear suspension is getting an upgrade to a 5-link independent suspension for better handling, and the infotainment gets Google integration. Why rear drive? Better weight distribution and just a much nicer car to drive. I've never understood why, when you don't have to run a drive shaft, why they go with a front wheel drive. I can't understand. I'm sure there's plenty of smarter people out there that could tell me what the benefit is. Is there a cost benefit? I just can't see it. Maybe a tiny little bit of cabling to take your power to the rear, but either way, let's continue. We're likely to see this here in mid-2026. We don't have any official pricing yet, but we do expect there to be a little bit of a premium over the current one. So we're thinking somewhere between $45,000 and $55,000 range. So this positions the Atto 3 against your Cupra Born, your Hyundai Ioniq 5, and even the Tesla Model Y performance in terms of its power. Obviously, it's a smaller car, but for Aussie families, more space than before. Same but faster charging means road trips from Sydney to Brisbane with fewer and quicker stops. The LFP battery, not as susceptible to the heat, and charging to 100% is no issue, so a lot more reliable, I would say, than NMC. Now, the all-wheel drive might cut range in the real world and in highway driving, but overall, this makes BYD even stronger in Australia, where we've really embraced Chinese EVs faster than anywhere in the world. Moving to policy, and another big Utes story, the Federal Chamber of Automotive Industries, the FCAI, this is Australia's peak motoring lobby group, has made a formal submission to government calling for electric vehicle incentives to be extended to light commercial plug-in hybrids like the upcoming Ford Ranger plug-in hybrid. This is crucial because current federal incentives heavily favour pure battery electric vehicles over plug-in hybrids, especially in the commercial space that's so dominant here in Australia. So let's unpack the current landscape first. Australia introduced the new Vehicle Efficiency Standards, the NVES, in 2025, which sets progressively tighter CO2 targets for manufacturers' fleets, starting at 141 grams per kilometre average in 2025, dropping to 58 grams per kilometre by 2029. Credits and penalties apply. It's similar to Europe's system. To help meet targets, there's a 5% import tariff exemption for battery electric vehicles from non-free trade agreement countries. And until April of 2025, there was an FBT exemption for plug-in hybrids, which is now over. The tariff exemption never applied to them. Unlike the regular Ford Rangers, which come out of Thailand, which is a free trade agreement country, so no tariff anyway, the plug-in hybrids are coming out of Ford's Silverton assembly plant in Pretoria, which is in South Africa. And we know pricing is starting around the $78,000 for the XLT model. The FCAI wants the tariff exemption extended to plug-in hybrid commercial vehicles, which should save around $4,000 on these South African-built models. So why the push? Plug-in hybrid sales exploded in 2025, reaching 4.3% of the market, driven by models like the Mitsubishi Outlander, the MG HS, and the BYD Shark. Pure BEV models now exceed 100 available in Australia, but in the light commercial ute and van segment, options are thin. The plug-in hybrid Ranger has got a 45 to 49 kilometre WLTP range. It is combined with Ford's EcoBoost 2.3 litre turbocharged 4-cylinder with the 75 kilowatt electric motor, and it only has an 11.8 kilowatt hour usable battery. It does make it pretty torquey, so you've got 697 newton meters available at 2,500 RPM and 207 kilowatt at 4,600 RPM. So that's more than the V6 motor, which will make it tow really well, which is something that Ford are really pushing. You go on their website and there's a big slogan, tows like a Ranger. So whatever that's supposed to mean. So let's do some numbers. A typical diesel Ranger does between 8.5 and 10 litres per 100 kilometres, emitting 220 to 260 grams of CO2 per kilometre. A Ranger plug-in hybrid charged daily could do 50 kilometres electric, 0 grams per kilometre in inverted commas, depending on how you charge it and the CO2 from the electricity, but that's another story for another day. If you add in the hybrid mode at maybe 6 litres per 100 kilometres for longer trips, you would really be reducing your emissions by 40 to 60% for your high volume fleet users. For a tradie doing 30,000 kilometres a year with 60% electric mileage, you're going to be saving around 1,500 to 2,000 litres of diesel. That's depending on how much you're paying for diesels. Sometimes up around the $2 a litre. $4,000 in the pocket per year. It's not a bad saving. The FCAI argues excluding plug-in hybrid commercials creates an uneven playing field. Battery electric vehicles get full incentives, but for users who need towing, payload and range beyond current battery tech, especially in regional Australia, plug-in hybrids are the practical bridge. Including them helps meet NVES targets faster without forcing unrealistic pure EV adoption in segments where infrastructure lags. Fleets and tradies buy over 60% of Utes. If incentives make Ranger plug-in hybrid $4,000, even up to $8,000 cheaper via tariff plus potential state rebates, adoption jumps. States like New South Wales and Victoria already offer $3,000 rebates for plug-in hybrids under certain prices. Extending federal support aligns everything. Bit of an honesty check. Plug-in hybrids only deliver big emission cuts if owners actually plug in regularly. I feel like I've said this before sometimes. Studies show overseas that 30 to 40% of plug-in hybrid owners rarely charge, turning them into worse hybrids. You're better off driving a mild hybrid. We need education and workplace charging incentives as well. Also, plug-in hybrids are more complex mechanically than battery electric vehicles, and they will have higher long-term maintenance, which makes sense. You've still got an engine. It still needs an oil change. You still need to put fuel filters in and timing belts or chains or whatever it is that it's running on. Battery electric Utes is the way to go. We need to get there. Let's go. But the FCAI's calls make sense. This could accelerate electrification in Australia's biggest vehicle segment without leaving regional users behind. Keep an eye on the Treasury's response. The 2026 Federal EV Strategy Review is going to be pivotal. For anyone waiting on the Ranger plug-in hybrid versus the BYD Shark 6, incentives could tip the scales. You've got die-hard Ford fans or someone that doesn't want to go to a new player in the market. They want to stick with a brand that they know, and I'm a Ford guy, don't get me wrong. So some of these incentives really could help tip the scales for guys that were never going to buy a BYD. They were going to buy a Ranger, but instead of buying the diesel one, they'll buy the plug-in hybrid one. So in that case, I think it could help. Onward we go. All right, enough. Let's try to move out of the serious stuff and get into something a little bit more fun. And Cupra has added an extreme option pack to the Leon Sports Tourer VZE plug-in hybrid wagon. Yes, another plug-in hybrid. Just ahead of hotter all-wheel drive hatch and wagon variants that should be arriving mid-year. Now, Cupra, if you don't know, is the Volkswagen Group's performance brand, and the Leon VZE wagon is one of the rare proper wagons still sold in Australia, a segment that's shrunk. But it's still super, super practical. You've got that massive boot space. The only thing is it's that low ride height, which might be good for someone, but not too good for my knees. Anyway, base spec, the current VZE uses a 1.4 litre turbo petrol plus electric motor for a 180 kilowatt and 400 Newton meter total. It is going to be upgraded from the earlier 150 kilowatt. Battery is 25.8 kilowatt hours, which is definitely on the larger size for the plug-in hybrids, which is great, delivering up to 121 kilometers of WLTP range. Now that's genuine daily commute on electric only capability for most Aussies. 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in about 7 seconds, which is more than plenty. The new Extreme Pack adds $7,600 to the base, $69,990 price, bringing it to around $77,590 drive away in most states. Now, what do you get for your money? Brembo 4-pot piston brakes with larger discs, 19-inch forged wheels, which should save on some weight, bucket sports seats with Dynamica upholstery, matrix LED lights. Now those matrix LED lights, we had one in a vehicle before, and you've never had headlights until you've had these, and they're just able to, normal high beam will come on and off with the sensors on the newer cars. This one will shut off individual LEDs in the light. So that car that's coming towards you, you just watch it as it moves. The LEDs come on and off. So you've still got high beam around that car, but not blinding the driver. The technology is just fantastic. You also will get, I side quest quite a bit here, so aggressive body kit with spoilers and diffusers and premium audio upgrades. Later in 2026, come the VZX variants all-wheel drive with a 200 kilowatt plus for even quicker acceleration and probably likely similar electric range. Now, why does this matter in Australia? Wagons are niche but dedicated. Think Subaru Outback buyers or those who prefer lower center of gravity. I'm having a good time with my words this morning. The Leon wagon offers 620 litres of boot space, more than many SUVs, expanding to 1,570 litres with the seats down, while delivering hot hatch performance and real electric drive. For Sydney to Central Coast commutes, you could do the round trip, mostly electric, then use the petrol for, weekend snowy mountain runs for all of those who have the time and don't have little kids. So comparing that to rivals like the Mitsubishi Outland plug-in hybrid, which is a little bit larger, but much slower. The MG HS Plus EV, a little bit cheaper, but definitely not as premium. So the Cupra stands out for driving dynamics with its Spanish tuned suspension, its sharp steering, and now those Brembos for confident braking when loaded. The plug-in hybrid system, it uses a 6-speed dual clutch transmission with the electric motor integrated. You've got charging up to 50 kilowatt DC, which I always say you're not really going to DC charge your plug-in hybrid very often, or 11 kilowatt AC. Efficiency in hybrid mode is around 1.5 to 2 litres per 100 kilometres when the battery is depleted, which is really good. I'd be very interested for anybody that has one of these, does it actually achieve that? Because that's really good. Now, wagons really do sell in tiny numbers here, under 5% of family cars. And at $77,000 plus, it is definitely premium pricing. The electric range drops in real-world highway or cold weather, but for enthusiasts wanting practicality without a full, SUV, it's really good. Cupra sales are growing fast in Australia. The brand is carving out a nice little performance EV niche, and this extreme pack makes the Leon Sports Tourer wagon a proper sleeper. Fast, efficient, and rare on the roads. If you want a car that isn't like everybody else's, you don't want to be like the RAV4s where every man and his dog has got one, this is definitely the car for you. Alright, shifting to heavy-duty electrification and a massive win for Australian logistics. Patrick Terminals, one of our biggest port operators, has deployed 9 fully electric terminal trucks at its Fremantle facility all the way over there in WA, with charging infrastructure fully installed. Now, these aren't road trucks, they're heavy-duty straddle carriers and terminal tractors that shuffle containers around the ports 24/7. Ports are emissions hotspots. Fremantle alone handles millions of TEUs, which are 20-foot equivalent units, annually, and diesel equipment contributes significant to local air pollution and national transport emissions, which is about 18% of Australia's total. Full disclosure, the project was part funded by ARENA, which is the Australian Renewable Energy Agency, proving commercial viability. The trucks are from global manufacturers like Kalmar or Terberg, with large battery packs sized for multi-shift operations. So typically 300 to 500 kilowatt hours for an 8 to 12 hour cycle. Charging is via depot-based high-power AC or opportunity DC charging during breaks. Patrick CEO Michael Jovic called it a major step in decarbonising freight. The company is now assessing retrofitting existing diesel units and expanding to Sydney and Melbourne terminals. Why is this huge for Australia? Well, our ports in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane and Fremantle are critical trade gateways. Electrifying them reduces noise, improves air quality for workers, and slashes operating costs, as electricity is cheaper than diesel long term, especially with on-site solar potential. Real savings, a diesel terminal truck might burn 50 to 80 litres per shift. The equivalent price of electricity would be $20 to $40. Some technical details. These trucks use high-torque electric drivetrains for instant response when lifting 40-ton containers. Regenerative braking recaptures energy during frequent stops. And batteries are designed for 5,000 plus cycles, meaning a 10 to 15-year lifespan in port duty. So the broader implications, this really sets precedents for mining companies like Rio Tinto and BHP. We mentioned in an earlier episode, Fortescue is already trialling electric haul trucks. This will be great for warehousing and long haul. Companies like Linfox and Toll are watching this closely. I would hope so anyway. So, realistically, upfront cost is high. It's going to be maybe twice as expensive, and grid upgrades were needed. But with falling battery prices and government support to start with, your payback period is going to be 5 to 8 years via fuel savings and lower maintenance. Obviously, no oil changes, fewer moving parts, all of that stuff. And your grid upgrades really only need to be done once. So this proves that heavy EVs work in demanding Australian conditions, hot WA summers, dusty environments. More ports following suit will clean up our supply chain significantly. All right, another heavy-duty breakthrough. The UK-based SunSwap has partnered with ProTrans Solutions for exclusive Australian distribution of the Endurance Sport Refrigeration Unit. It's an interesting name. Fully electric, solar-powered, zero diesel. Traditional refrigerated trailers, or reefers, use diesel auxiliary engines to keep loads cool, burning thousands of litres of diesel annually per truck. And all those emitting those NOx and particulates right in urban delivery zones, supermarket supply chains, such as Woolworths, Coles, Aldi, all of those sort of things that need cold transport. The Endurance system replaces diesel with a large battery pack plus roof-mounted solar panels. The battery powers electric compressors, the fans, while solar tops up during daylight hours, especially really good in our beautiful sunshine. If it's been proven in the UK, then, I think we can manage it here. In UK and Chile trials, maintains a negative 20C deep freeze, even on cloudy conditions, with solar contributing up to 40% energy depending on the route. Showcased at Truck Show X in May 2026, it's now available for Australian fleets, single trailers or B-doubles, integrated with existing prime movers, diesel or electric ones. So some numbers, a typical diesel reefer burns 4 to 6 hours a litre when running, over 2,000 hours a year. That's 15 grand plus in fuel. So estimated payback is 4 to 6 years with the fuel savings and potential grants from ARENA or anything from the state government as well. And then obviously over time, costs, economies of scale, the price of these things will come down. You won't need government incentives. And the payback period will reduce dramatically. As I said, our high solar irradiance means more free energy than in Europe. Long regional hauls, Sydney to Melbourne, will maximise panel yield. So, reality, higher upfront costs and battery will add weight, reducing payload. Cold chain certification is rigorous, but SunSwap has it. So this decarbonises the coldest part of logistics. You see what I did there? Vital as food transport emissions rise. So we are hoping we might see some of the larger fleets adopting this soon. And that's our episode for today, February 12th, 2026. Definitely our longest podcast yet as we get into the swing of things and figure out our scripting and everything. I do hope you guys are enjoying it. I hope you're getting the good information. If I'm not being informative enough, or if I'm yabbering on too much, please let me know. We've got our Facebook page, Plugged In Australia, or just send me an email, info@pluggedinaustralia.com.au. And until our next episode, stay plugged in and stay charged. Ci vediamo.